She didn't cry. She didn't argue. She didn't even raise her voice. She placed the envelope on the kitchen counter like it was a grocery receipt and said, "I've already filed." No warning, no conversation, no last fight, just paperwork. I remember staring at the return address from a law firm downtown while the coffee machine hummed behind me like nothing had changed. But everything had. And instead of begging, instead of shouting, I asked her for one thing: 30 days. Stay with me, because those 30 days were not about saving a marriage. They were about understanding why it ended before I even knew it was in danger. My name is Daniel Mercer. I'm 38 years old, and until that Tuesday morning, I believed my marriage was stable. Not perfect, not romantic in a movie way, but stable. Lauren and I had been married for 11 years. We met in graduate school. She was studying public policy. I was finishing an engineering degree. We built a life that looked steady from the outside. 2 cars, a townhouse in a quiet suburb, shared calendars, shared accounts, shared routines. Or so I thought. When she said she had already filed, I noticed something small before anything else. Her hands weren't shaking. People talk about shock like it's loud. For me, it was silent. My ears felt full. The refrigerator motor clicked on. A dog barked somewhere down the street. Ordinary sounds. I picked up the envelope. "Why?" I asked. She looked at the wall behind me, not at me. "It's been building for years." That sentence bothered me more than the paperwork. Years? We had dinner together the night before. We talked about her upcoming conference in Chicago. We argued lightly about whether to refinance the car. Nothing dramatic, nothing that felt like a breaking point. "You could have told me," I said. "I tried," she replied. Her voice stayed calm, almost rehearsed. I replayed the last year in my head quickly. Vacations, holidays, a minor argument about her job travel, a disagreement about my mother visiting too often. Nothing catastrophic. "I'm not asking you to change my mind," she said. "I'm just letting you know." That phrase, letting you know, like I was a colleague being informed of a schedule update. My chest tightened, not from anger, from confusion. "I need 30 days, I said. She blinked, finally looking at me directly. "For what?" "For clarity, for both of us. Don't finalize anything for 30 days. She hesitated, just a second. Her jaw tightened slightly. "It won't change anything," she said. "Maybe not, but if this has been building for years, 30 days won't matter." Silence. That silence felt heavier than the word divorce. She picked up her phone, typed something quickly, then nodded. "I won't push the timeline for 30 days. Agreement. Calm. Transactional." She left for work 15 minutes later. I stayed at the counter long after the door closed. The house didn't look like a place where someone had been planning to leave. Her shoes were still lined neatly by the entry. Her coat hung on the hook. Her laptop bag sat by the couch. Nothing packed. That detail stayed with me. If this had been building for years, why did it look like she wasn't going anywhere? I went upstairs and opened our bedroom closet. Her side was untouched. Dresses still arranged by color, shoes in order. No overnight bag missing. I checked the filing cabinet in our office. Financial statements, insurance documents, everything in place. Except one thing. A separate folder labeled Personal. I didn't recognize it. Inside were printed bank statements from the past 8 months, not our joint account, a separate one. My stomach tightened. I knew about her consulting side work. She occasionally did research projects for a nonprofit, but the deposits were larger than I expected, and regular. Why hadn't she mentioned the scale of it? I sat down in the office chair and felt something unfamiliar. Doubt. Not about her, about myself. Had I been inattentive, distracted, so focused on routine that I missed a slow withdrawal happening right beside me? At lunch that day, she texted me, "We'll keep things respectful." Respectful. I stared at the word longer than necessary. That afternoon, I called my older brother, Nathan. He listened quietly while I explained. "Did she say there was someone else?" he asked. "No." "Did you suspect anything?" "No." He exhaled slowly. Sometimes people decide they're done before they say it. That didn't sit right with me. Lauren isn't impulsive. She plans everything, even vacations or spreadsheets. If she decided she was done, there would be structure behind it. That evening, she came home at her usual time. She changed into comfortable clothes, cooked dinner like nothing was happening. I watched her movements carefully. No anger, no visible guilt, just controlled distance. During dinner, I asked, "When did you hire the attorney?" She paused before answering. A small pause. 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks. 3 weeks of sleeping in the same bed. 3 weeks of normal conversations. "Why not tell me then?" I asked. "Because I needed to be sure." Sure of what? That I wasn't overreacting. That word again. Overreacting. "So what pushed you from doubt to filing?" I asked. She looked down at her plate. "You stopped listening." It sounded simple, too simple. "I'm here now," I said quietly. She gave a small, tight smile. Now isn't the same. Later that night, we lay in the same bed, but didn't touch. I stared at the ceiling. Stopped listening. I tried to replay conversations, moments where she spoke and I might have brushed something off, but nothing stood out as catastrophic. Around midnight, I heard her breathing change. Not asleep, controlled. She was awake too. That silence between us felt intentional, like she was waiting. Waiting for what, I didn't know. The next morning, she left earlier than usual. I went back to the office drawer and opened the folder again. The deposits weren't just large, they were increasing. And then I noticed something else. Transfers. Small ones at first, then larger. All authorized, all routine. But I didn't remember discussing them. My heartbeat slowed instead of racing. Calm. If she had been planning for years, then this wasn't emotional. It was strategic. 30 days suddenly felt less like time to heal and more like time to uncover. Because this didn't feel like a marriage that collapsed. It felt like one that was quietly restructured without me noticing, and I needed to understand why.
The second day of the 30 felt different. Not louder, just sharper. Lauren moved through the house like a guest, polite, controlled, careful not to linger in shared spaces too long. I watched everything. Not in a paranoid way, in a quiet, observant way. When someone tells you they've been planning to leave for years, you start measuring details differently. That morning, she took a phone call in the garage. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop. I was in the kitchen, but the door between the house and the garage wasn't fully closed. Her voice was low. "Yes?" "Not yet," she said. A pause. "No, he asked for 30 days. Another pause. "I know, I just need to keep it stable." Keep it stable. The words settled in my chest like something heavy. When she came back inside, her expression was neutral. She picked up her laptop bag and kissed the air near my cheek without touching me. "Meeting all afternoon," she said. I nodded. After she left, I stood in the hallway longer than necessary. Not yet. Keep it stable. That didn't sound like someone unsure about divorce. It sounded like someone managing a process. I went back to the office. I opened our joint account online. The transfers to her personal account were labeled Consulting Tax Buffer. I didn't remember agreeing to that label. I checked older statements. The pattern started 9 months ago. Small amounts at first, a few hundred, then a few thousand, then larger. All within legal limits, all subtle enough not to trigger alarm, but steady. I leaned back in the chair. Had she been preparing financially long before the attorney, or had something happened 9 months ago? That number stuck in my head. 9 months. I walked into the living room and looked at the framed photo from last summer, us at the lake house. She was smiling, real smile, at least it looked real. What happened after that? That afternoon, I texted her. When did you start feeling disconnected? She didn't respond for 2 hours. Finally, one sentence. Gradually. Gradually. That word felt safe, non-specific, impossible to challenge. I replied, "Can we have one honest conversation tonight?" She answered quickly this time. Yes. When she came home, she changed into sweatpants and tied her hair back. No makeup, no performance. We sat at the dining table. "I'm not trying to convince you to stay," I said. "I just need the truth." She folded her hands together, a habit she had when she wanted to appear composed. "I felt alone for a long time," she said. "In what way?" "You operate like everything is a project. Problems get optimized. Emotions get scheduled." That stung more than I expected. "I didn't know you felt that way," I said. "That's the point." Silence. I let it sit. "I found the separate account," I said calmly. Her eyes lifted slowly. "I assumed you would. You were moving money for months." "I was protecting myself." "From what?" She held my gaze. "From instability." That word again. I felt something shift. "You think I'm unstable?" I asked quietly. She didn't answer directly. "You don't notice changes until they're extreme. I didn't want to be financially exposed if things escalated." Escalated? What was escalating? I asked. "Your temper." My stomach dropped. "My temper?" I repeated. "You've been more reactive," she said, "more dismissive." I tried to remember the last time I raised my voice. There had been an argument about her travel schedule 3 months ago. I'd been frustrated, not explosive. "Did I ever threaten you?" I asked. "No." "Did I ever scare you?" She hesitated. "Not physically." That answer was careful. "Then what are you preparing for?" I asked. She exhaled slowly. "You're unstable." That felt unfair. I've had the same job for 12 years, same routine, same friends. What exactly is unpredictable? "You change direction emotionally," she said. "You shut down." I leaned back. This conversation was sliding somewhere else. "You hired an attorney before telling me. That's not gradual. That's decisive." She looked at me for a long moment. I needed control. Control. It wasn't about fear. It was about leverage. That realization was quiet but clear. "Who were you talking to this morning?" I asked. Her face changed slightly. Not panic, just a tightening around her eyes. "A colleague." "In the garage?" She didn't respond. I let the silence stretch. She broke it first. "You're monitoring me now?" she asked softly. "I'm trying to understand." Her jaw tightened. "This is why," she said. "Why what?" "You don't trust me." The accusation was smooth. I almost apologized automatically. Then I stopped. She opened a separate account, filed for divorce, taken calls in the garage, and now I was the one not trusting? I stayed quiet. She stood up first. "This is exactly why I didn't tell you sooner," she said. "You shift into interrogation mode."
interrogation mode. She walked upstairs. I remained at the table staring at the empty chair across from me. For the first time since she filed, doubt entered a different form. Not doubt about myself, doubt about the narrative. If she felt unsafe, why wait years? If I was unstable, why keep things stable for 30 days? If she wanted distance, why continue acting normal? Nothing aligned cleanly. That night, she slept facing away from me. I didn't try to touch her. Around 2 in the morning, her phone vibrated softly on the nightstand. She picked it up quickly. The light from the screen reflected on the ceiling. She typed something, then turned the phone face down. I didn't ask, but I noticed. The next morning, I woke before her. I went downstairs quietly and checked the trash. Inside was a crumpled envelope from a financial advisory firm. Not a law office, a wealth management group. My heartbeat slowed again. This wasn't emotional collapse. This was repositioning. And if she needed 30 days to keep it stable, then something larger was waiting on the other side of that deadline. I didn't know what yet, but I was starting to understand one thing clearly. The divorce wasn't the event. It was a step in something already in motion, and I had 30 days to figure out what that was.
On the 4th day of the 30, I stopped reacting and started observing. There's a difference. Reacting is emotional. It demands answers immediately. Observing is quiet. It waits. Lauren left for Chicago the next morning for her conference. 3 days. She told me 2 weeks ago about the trip, back when everything still felt normal. Now, nothing felt normal. I offered to drive her to the airport. She declined. "I'll take a rideshare," she said. "It's easier." Easier. When the front door closed behind her, the house felt hollow. Not empty, just unsettled. I walked through each room slowly, not searching, measuring. Her closet was still intact, no missing luggage beyond the carry-on she took, her jewelry box untouched, important documents still in the cabinet. If someone was preparing to disappear, there would be signs. There weren't. Instead, everything suggested continuation. I opened our shared calendar online. Her conference sessions were listed, panels, networking dinners, all public. But there was one blank window. Friday evening. No dinner reservation, no scheduled event, just empty. It might have meant nothing, but after the garage call and the hidden financial advisor envelope, nothing felt meaningless anymore. That afternoon, I called a mutual acquaintance, not a close friend, someone neutral, Ethan Ramirez. He works in policy circles, sometimes overlapping with Lauren's nonprofit consulting. We'd had dinner with him and his wife twice. I kept my voice casual. "Hey, random question. Is Lauren meeting anyone in Chicago outside the conference?" There was a small pause. "I assumed she mentioned it," he said. "Mentioned what?" "She's presenting with the Ridgewell Foundation team on Friday evening, closed donor meeting." Ridgewell Foundation. I'd never heard that name from her before. "Closed donor?" I asked. "Yeah, big private funding group. They've been expanding nationally." He sounded relaxed, unaware. I thanked him and hung up. I sat at the kitchen table again, same chair, same light coming through the window. Closed donor meeting. We had discussed her nonprofit work in general terms, policy reform, research funding, community grants. She had never mentioned Ridgewell. Why hide a donor meeting? Unless it wasn't about the conference. I opened my laptop and searched Ridgewell Foundation. The first result was an announcement from 6 months ago. New Strategic Partnership Initiative. The director listed in the article, Lauren Mercer. My stomach tightened. She had told me she was consulting part-time, advisory role, flexible. Director implied something else. I clicked through archived posts. 8 months ago, Ridgewell launched a pilot project in 3 states. 9 months ago, transfers began from our joint account. The timeline aligned too neatly. I leaned back slowly.
This wasn't an emotional withdrawal from a marriage. This was a career expansion. Why hide it? Unless her personal financial separation was required. For optics, for independence, for leverage, or for something more strategic. I scrolled further. A press release dated 3 weeks ago. Ridgewell Foundation announces new executive leadership transition pending personal restructuring. Personal restructuring. The phrase sat heavy. 3 weeks ago was when she hired the attorney. I reread it. Executive leadership transition pending personal restructuring. Not financial restructuring. Personal. My heartbeat stayed steady. Too steady. I wasn't angry. I was calculating. If she was stepping into a larger role, donors would want stability, clean image, no domestic complications. Divorce would signal autonomy. I closed the laptop slowly. That evening, she called from Chicago. Her voice sounded polished, confident. "How's everything at home?" she asked. "Quiet," I replied. We exchanged small updates. Then I said, "How's Ridgewell?" There was a pause, just a breath longer than natural. "It's fine," she said carefully. "You're presenting Friday night?" "Yes." "Closed donor meeting?" Silence. "Who told you that?" "Does it matter?" Another pause. "I was going to explain after things settled." "Explain what?" "That I've been offered a larger role." "How large?" "Executive level." "That requires personal restructuring?" I asked calmly. Her breathing shifted slightly. "You read the release," she said. "I did." She didn't deny it. "Why didn't you tell me?" I asked. "Because I knew how you would react." "How would I react?" "You'd question the risk, the time commitment, the financial changes." She wasn't wrong. "But instead you filed for divorce," I asked. "It's more complicated." "Is it?" Her voice lowered. "The board prefers leaders without domestic volatility." Domestic volatility. The phrase felt rehearsed. "I've never created volatility," I said quietly. "It's not about what you've done," she replied. "It's about perception." Perception. There it was. "You needed to appear independent," I said. "Yes." "You couldn't be married to an engineer in a suburban townhouse?" "It's not that simple." "But it's close," I replied. Silence. For the first time, she didn't try to redirect. "You asked for 30 days," she said. "What are you trying to prove?" "I'm trying to understand if this was about us or about optics." "It's both." Her honesty surprised me. "Are you leaving because you stopped loving me, or because it's inconvenient?" She didn't answer immediately. "I grew beyond this life," she said finally. Beyond this life. That sentence carried more weight than anything else. "I wasn't consulted on that growth," I said. "You didn't give me the chance." The line went quiet. Then she said something softer. "I didn't want to negotiate my future." And that was the clearest thing she had said so far. This wasn't about instability or temper or emotional shutdown. This was about acceleration. She was stepping into a new world, and she didn't want to carry me into it. The 30 days suddenly felt different. Not a chance to save us, but a window before she officially transitioned. A period where things were still legally intertwined. Assets, reputation, image. If donors required clean personal optics, then public narrative mattered. And I hadn't yet considered how this separation might be framed. Because if she needed domestic volatility minimized, someone would need to be volatile, and it wouldn't be her.
The shift didn't happen in Chicago. It happened 3 days after she came back. Lauren returned Sunday evening, calm, focused, almost energized. She looked lighter. That alone told me something. If divorce was painful, it wasn't showing. We ate dinner quietly. She spoke about the conference in broad strokes, policy panels, donor dinners, productive conversations. She didn't mention Ridgewell directly. I didn't press. Instead, I waited. Tuesday morning, my phone buzzed at work. A message from a colleague. "Hey, everything okay at home?" My stomach tightened. "Why?" I replied. "Just heard something through a mutual contact. Sorry if that's intrusive." He didn't elaborate. I left my desk and stepped outside. Within an hour, 2 more subtle messages arrived, similar tone, concerned, vague. By lunch, it became clear the narrative had moved. Not publicly, not on social media, but in quiet professional circles. I called Nathan again. "Has anyone contacted you?" I asked. He hesitated. Lauren's friend, Camille, reached out, said things were unstable at home. Unstable. The word felt surgical. "What exactly did she say?" I asked. "That you've been struggling, mood swings, stress." Mood swings. I closed my eyes briefly. This wasn't accidental phrasing. This was positioning. If she needed to present as independent and steady for Ridgewell leadership, any separation would require context, and context had to explain why. If she simply said she outgrew the marriage, that might reflect ambition. But if she left instability, it reflected strength. I drove home early. Lauren was already there. I stood in the doorway to the living room. "Are you telling people I'm unstable?" I asked calmly. She looked up from her laptop. "I'm explaining the separation," she said. "With mood swings?" She inhaled slowly. "I'm sharing my experience." "Your experience of what?" "Emotional unpredictability." That phrase again. "You're framing me as volatile," I said. "I'm protecting myself," she replied. "From what exactly? I've never harmed you, never threatened you, never even raised my voice in public." She didn't answer directly. "It's complicated." "No," I said softly, "it's strategic." Her eyes sharpened slightly. "You think everything is strategy," she said, "because this is." Silence. For the first time, I saw something under her calm surface. Not guilt, calculation. "You're stepping into executive leadership," I said, "and that requires a clean personal narrative." She didn't deny it. "The board wants stability," she said, "and instability has to come from somewhere." She closed the laptop slowly. "You asked for 30 days. Use them." That sentence wasn't defensive. It was almost a challenge. That night, I didn't sleep much. The 30 days weren't about saving a marriage anymore. They were about narrative control. If she was quietly framing me as emotionally unstable, that framing could expand. Professional reputation, social circles, shared friends. Once a label attaches, it lingers. But I couldn't react aggressively. That would validate it. I needed calm, measured. The next morning, I called an attorney. Not to contest the divorce, to understand exposure. I kept it factual. What happens if a spouse begins suggesting emotional instability during a leadership transition? I asked. The attorney paused. "Are there allegations?" she asked. "No, just suggestions." "Document everything," she replied. Document. Not fight, not confront. Document. That afternoon, I reviewed our email history from the past year, not to find affection, to find tone. Every disagreement, every message, every scheduling conflict. There were no outbursts, no threats, no erratic statements. If anything, I was excessively measured. Then I noticed something subtle, her language shift. Around 9 months ago, her emails became slightly more formal, less we, more I, less collaborative phrasing, more independent planning. The timeline aligned again. That evening, she came home late. We stood in the kitchen, facing each other. "You're building a case," she said quietly. "I'm building clarity," I replied. "For what? To fight? For accuracy." She looked at me for a long moment.
"You could make this harder," she said. The statement wasn't emotional, it was factual. "I could," I agreed. "And you won't?" she asked. "Not if you stop adjusting the story." Her jaw tightened. "I'm not adjusting anything. You're shaping it." Silence stretched between us. Then she said something that shifted everything. "The board wants to meet you." I didn't react immediately. "For what?" I asked. "They prefer context," she said, before finalizing the leadership announcement. Context. They wanted to see the husband, assess volatility. This wasn't about paperwork, this was evaluation. "If they perceive instability," she said carefully, "it complicates the transition." I understood now. She didn't just need the divorce filed, she needed it justified. And if I appeared emotional, reactive, resentful, it would confirm her framing. I nodded slowly. "When is the meeting?" "Next Thursday. 7 days left in the 30. She studied my face carefully. "You'll stay composed?" she asked. I almost smiled. "Have I ever done otherwise?" She didn't answer, and for the first time since the envelope hit the counter, I felt something steady. Not anger, not fear, control. Because if this was about perception, then perception could be observed, and silence, when used carefully, could say more than defense ever would.
The board meeting wasn't dramatic. No raised voices, no accusations, just 12 people seated around a long table in a quiet conference room at Ridgewell's headquarters. Glass walls, soft lighting, controlled atmosphere. I arrived 10 minutes early. Lauren was already there. She stood near the window speaking with the board chair, Dr. Henley. When she saw me, she didn't wave. She simply nodded. Professional. Measured. I shook hands with each board member, made eye contact, steady grip, calm tone. No defensiveness, no visible tension. They weren't looking for proof. They were looking for energy. Instability is rarely detected in words. It shows in posture, in breath, in micro-reactions. I sat down, hands relaxed on the table. Dr. Henley began. "We understand you and Lauren are separating," she said evenly. "Given her upcoming leadership role, we want to ensure the transition is smooth." I nodded. "That's understandable." A few questions followed, nothing accusatory. "How are you handling the separation? What changes should we anticipate publicly? Is there any conflict that might affect Ridgewell?" Each time I answered plainly. We agreed to proceed respectfully. The separation is mutual in terms of timing. There is no legal dispute. I did not defend myself. I did not counter her narrative. I did not mention the word unstable. Then Dr. Henley asked the only question that mattered. "Have there been any emotional volatility concerns within the marriage?" The room went still. Lauren's posture shifted slightly. Just slightly. This was the moment. I could push back. I could dismantle the framing. Instead, I took a breath. "In any long-term relationship, there are disagreements," I said. "But I have never been violent, never abusive, never erratic." I paused. If I were emotionally volatile, this meeting would look very different. Silence followed. No one spoke, not for several seconds. And in that silence, something subtle changed. Perception isn't shaped by argument, it's shaped by contrast. If she had prepared them for instability, they weren't seeing it. Dr. Henley leaned back slightly. "Thank you," she said. That was it. No cross-examination, no follow-up. The meeting ended 20 minutes later. Lauren walked beside me to the elevator. Neither of us spoke until the doors closed. "You handled that well," she said quietly. "I didn't handle anything. I just answered." She watched the floor numbers descend. "They noticed." "Noticed what?" "You weren't defensive." "I had nothing to defend." That landed heavier than anything else had all month. When we stepped outside, the air felt colder. She stopped near the curb. "I didn't expect them to ask that question directly," she admitted. "I did." Her eyes flicked toward me. "You did?" Yes. Silence. Did you plan what to say? No. I met her gaze. I just chose not to react. For the first time since the divorce papers appeared, her expression wasn't composed. It wasn't angry. It wasn't strategic. It was uncertain. I wasn't trying to destroy you, she said. I know. I needed separation to look justified. I know that too. The truth sat between us without hostility. She hadn't hated me. She had needed narrative alignment, and narrative alignment sometimes requires contrast. If I softened it, people would assume there was more, she said quietly. You didn't soften it. She didn't argue. The board announcement went out 2 weeks later. Lauren was appointed executive director. The press release mentioned a recent personal transition handled with mutual respect. No instability, no emotional strain, just transition. The framing adjusted itself because the evidence didn't match the suggestion. 30 days ended quietly. We signed the final documents in a lawyer's office that smelled like old paper and coffee. No drama, no raised voices, just signatures. When it was finished, she folded her copy carefully. You didn't try to stop it, I replied. I asked for time. You didn't fight. I didn't need to. She studied me one last time. Do you resent me? I considered it. Resentment requires emotional charge. The charge had dissolved somewhere between silence and restraint. No, I said honestly. I understand you. That was harder than anger. Understanding removes the villain. It replaces it with perspective. She nodded once, and that was the end of us. Not explosive, not tragic, just concluded. 6 months later, I heard she was thriving in the role. Fundraising up, donor confidence strong. The narrative worked, but it wasn't built on my collapse. It was built on her clarity. As for me, my reputation remained intact. Friends who heard early whispers quietly recalibrated. Professional contacts never distanced themselves. Because instability is loud, and I never was. The 30 days hadn't been about saving a marriage. They had been about choosing how I would be remembered inside it. Silence isn't weakness. Restraint isn't surrender. Sometimes the strongest move isn't proving someone wrong. It's allowing them to discover it on their own. And in that quiet boardroom, when no one saw volatility, the narrative corrected itself. Because the evidence didn't match the suggestion.